What's Going On with Lady D today. I'm your host. Join us every Thursday at 4 p.m. for another breakthrough conversation. Be a guest on our show, 216-571-2235. Well, welcome to What's Going On with Lady D today. I'm your host, Lady D, and we have a special guest, wonderful guest today in the house. No other than Mr. Alfred Cleveland and Micheal Sutton. They are here to tell you about a very important story. So I really hope that you really tune in and share this story with others, because these two men, and along with others that are working with the Voices of Injustice, they are here to give support and to help when help is needed, because this is, oh my God, I just, it's overwhelming. So without further ado, welcome Mike Sutton and Alfred Cleveland.
All right.
How are you guys doing today?
Oh, we're doing great. Glad to be here.
Doing great. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for, it's an honor to have you on and to share your story. So I would like for you to tell our listeners a little bit of something about you, where you're from.
Well, I'm from Queens, New York.
Okay.
Born and raised there. I'm an artist. I'm a father, grandfather, 17 now. Love them all. We have big fun. And I'm having a lot of fun right now being creative and doing the things we're doing, which we'll talk about.
All right. And Mr. Sutton.
My name is Micheal Sutton. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I grew up in the Miles area, Miles Harvard area. Basically, I'm a father. I'm in college right now. We just created this Voices of Injustice, and I'm one of the co-founders of this. And now we're getting into musical arts and theatrical things, and we just coming around like a glimmer of hope and just trying to help, basically.
That's all right. So you are going to be spreading the word. We're going to get into the wonderful things that are coming up, but I do have some questions for you guys. Can you share what inspired you both to form the Voices of Injustice, and how has it been received by the Cleveland community so far?
Well, Mike is the young man who kind of like rallied us together to form it, because we were kind of like a support group. So maybe he'd be better at telling us what inspired him.
For me, I think it was more like, I think I was so young when I got locked up. I was 17 years old and I received 46 and a half years at such a young age. When I was in there, I was like, man, they took my youth away. They took all my teens from all the 20s. They took everything. So I came home when I was 35 years old. And when I was in prison, I always just used to think like, how can I give back? How can my story, how can me overcoming the hurt and all the pain that I've been through and the loss, how can this help the next person? And I really just felt like I used to ask why me, and then I got strong enough to say why not me. So I feel like God using me to pass a message or just help other people.
Being an advocate.
Being an advocate.
Yes.
Especially going through it. So I just want to help families, because my mother needed help. My aunties needed help. I had, when you go in there, so many people could doubt you, because when they paint the narrative so wrong, it makes you really look like dang, did I do that? You ask yourself. So I just want to be able to help. There's so many people in prison that was in the same boat that I was in, that's waiting to come home and still getting denied, and I know what it feels like. So for us to make it out them hurdles, it's like we got to do something. I see what we all came home through the Ohio Innocent Project, but we are from Cleveland, and there's too many of us that all go through this storm together. So let's just come together and let's see what we could create. So basically, it's a lot of people from the city of Cleveland, Ohio, that reaches in to me. Probably they reach in to me through Instagram, Facebook, and I respond a lot through them social media platforms because them the ones that I really frequently use. So I just always try to pass it forward with any attorney that I know that's a good attorney and a good appeal attorney, or if you got technicalities in your case. Like a lot of people ask me, and I think that they would know this information, but they just like me. I didn't know this information. I had to learn it, and I had to learn about it the hard way, going to prison. So I understand these black communities. They don't understand the law because we wasn't taught this in school. So by me just having this information, and he being older than me, he teaching me stuff, and I feel like I could pass it forward, and it's working okay for us so far.
Awesome. If you don't mind, is it okay if you share with our listeners why you were incarcerated, wrongly convicted?
Um,
Just a brief synopsis of what happened.
I was incarcerated on my prime weekend. Me and three more of my friends, we was going out to celebrate because I had a full ride to college, and I was about to graduate in 4 days from South High School in Cleveland, Ohio, May 26, 2006, Memorial Day weekend. And we was going to a teen nightclub called the Motor Nightclub on West 25th. And around this time it's Memorial Day weekend, and back in the early 2000s, every when Memorial Day weekend come, all the high schools and all the colleges let out for the summertime. And before Instagram nowadays, kids had to come outside. So we was going to the nightclub called the Motor, and when we was leaving the nightclub at about 2:30, I was on my way driving home, and we was in front of the 55th Marathon. And I remember the light turning green, and it was a car in front of my car, and there was another car on the shoulder line. I just remember the car, we was like driving past rallies, and I remember a long light skinned arm came out the window, and it got to shooting into another car, and it shot two people in the face, and it sped off so fast. But I seen the police in the 55th Marathon, so I pulled over because I seen the lights activate. I'm thinking they about to go and arrest this car, but they pulled my car over. And in the midst of it, I'm not from this area, no nothing. I panicked, and it was four black kids in the car. It's 2:30.
Mm.
I started driving, and I started driving basically because I needed to see some street lights. So I started driving. I turned on the first street I seen, and as soon as I turned on the street, I ran up to the police officers like we didn't do nothing. And the next thing I know, I remember the police got to shooting at my passengers, and we was charged with attempted aggravated murder on the cop, and I was charged with 4 counts of attempted murder, and I received 46 and a half years. My co-defendant received 92 and a half years, and my other two co-defendants got found not guilty in 2006.
My.
Yeah.
Oh, that is just horrible. So, Michael, your story of wrongful conviction is incredibly powerful. What was the turning point that gave you hope that the justice might prevail in your case?
Basically, I did 15 years. On my 10th year, when I was locked up, like I was going through the lawyer process of paying so many attorneys, and just by me knowing that I was innocent, I was thinking I was so young at the time. Before I had knowledge, I was just thinking like, okay, if I pay an attorney, they should see that I'm innocent because I'm really innocent. But that's just me knowing I'm innocent. I'm not thinking like I have to prove I'm innocent. You know, as a black kid, we never really taught the law, so we don't know how to prepare for something like this. But my 10th year into my prison sentence, my arresting officer caught a case, and I was in Mansfield Correctional Institution at the time. And I was laying down, and I seen the news said breaking news: police officer catches a rape charge in the 55th marathon, and I was like, that's my arresting officer.
Wow.
And I remember I wrote him a letter. I asked him like, "You remember us?" I sent him a picture of me and everything. I said, "You remember us?" I said, "We was charged with shooting at y'all." And he wrote me back. He said, "I remember y'all. I remember this case." He said, "I told the head detective and the prosecutor y'all wasn't shooting at us." And he told me and my co-defendant like, hire a private investigator to come see me. He said me and my partner come forward, and that was the turning point, like for me and Kenny, my co-defendant.
Wow, look at God.
Yes.
So you had a support system outside. Was your mom?
Yeah,
How did she play this role? I know you said you were your mom's only son. Only,
yeah.
are you the only child?
No,
Okay.
I got three older sisters. Before I went to prison, I had two older sisters, but I always knew I had another one. So when I came home, I went and found my other sister and brought her into the family. And I got three older sisters now, but no brothers. But my mother played a huge part because it was like I was so young, and at the time it was four of us, and my mother know I don't get into this type of trouble. I
Right.
might be a kid, and I'm like sometimes kids get stereotyped. I'm a good kid. I go to school all the time, but I do get in trouble,
Yeah,
But
we.
I'm
It's
not
a normal
a
thing. We
bad
all
kid.
mischievous. We ain't
I'm not,
perfect.
but I'm not a. I was not shooting people. I wasn't doing that. I really was. My mother knew it. Like once I talked to my mother, I said, they got the wrong people. I really was just celebrating because I'm about to leave and go to Akron University. I'm about to stay on campus. I'm not thinking my first days of prison is supposed to be my first days in college, and my mother wasn't letting up. Like at the time, my grandmother and them was still alive, and my whole family was around, and I was one of the kind of like the favorites, and everybody knew. Like once I got took away, it was like my whole family cried. And my mother just turned into like a superwoman, man. My mother, cause we ain't had the knowledge of nothing. We just knew like if we get a couple of dollars and this appeal thing, like he got to come home, man. It ain't work out that way at first, and my mother still was like, "That's okay." My mother slept in front of the Justice Center for 3 days with
Wow.
Art McCoy and did a no justice, no peace. And my mother, my mother used to do so much. Like I knew my mother when she was so strong and dedicated, she
Right.
would just talk to people and just find people like, "Oh, he a paralegal. Oh, he know this person." And my mother was just she was learning as I would just talk to her through a jail. So like all my pain was like her fire, her energy,
Mm-hmm.
no matter how long it took, and I ain't had no out day. 46 years, my out day was 2053,
Oh
June
my.
16. So
Oh my God.
she was like, no, she gonna keep fighting to her last breath. And my mother worked extra jobs. Like we paid over $80,000 in lawyer fees, and my mother like, that's okay. Like I'll go get another job.
Right.
I'll braid some hair if I have to.
Right.
And my father was around, and my sisters was around, and my friends was around. It took a whole community to really not forget about me. I feel like to keep me a little bit of relevant in order for me to come home because I could have easily got lost in the system. But my mother, God, going to church and being around
Mm-hmm.
like-minded people that just could listen, and eventually we got a breaking point. So my mother turned into was a
That's
huge part.
and that's what us mothers do. we will move a building.
That's right.
We move mountains for our children, and especially when we know that they, they're not wrong, you know. And you got to have somebody to believe in you and you have to fight. And it's how important is it to have the right attorney?
Yeah.
You want to speak on that?
You said something important. I want to speak on when it comes to mothers,
Yeah.
because I was thinking about, going back a little bit to George Floyd and all that, and I wonder if we didn't have a cell phone, that technology, would we ever really know about these shootings? And I think about how many mothers have went for centuries not knowing what happened to their child when the police say, this happened, that happened.
Right.
Knowing deep down, like, it didn't feel right, you know what I'm saying? So my heart and my prayers go out to the mothers who lost their children, like my mother did. Not me, but my sister.
Okay.
She did lose me to a wrongful conviction, but my sister was killed. But that's another story.
Okay.
Yeah. So you asked me something.
Okay. I want to know. So, what are the particular programs or initiatives that the Voice of Justice is launching to help individuals who have experienced wrongful conviction
Okay, so
or who are facing similar challenges?
yeah. So what a lot of people don't know is that in Cuyahoga County in particular, like, this is like a main hub of wrongful convictions.
Okay.
It's like a wrongful conviction machine. They're in the top 10 of wrongful convictions in the U.S.
Okay.
That's going up against states like California, New York, Texas, all these big states. How does Cuyahoga County wind up amongst them? Something happened here. I'm not really sure, but something happened it was corruption. 40s, 50s, 60s on up, and it was deeply inbred in the culture. And as a result, now people are getting out. Close to, I believe the number is close to 40 in Cuyahoga County. It might not be that high, but it's close,
Okay.
of exonerations.
Okay.
So that's way too many people in one little area. So
Yeah.
we've come along. All of the people in our group, 6 wrongfully convicted individuals, had their convictions in Cuyahoga County except me.
Okay.
I'm in Lorain County,
Okay.
but we started as a support group, basically leaning on one another, talking. We all been through the same thing. So, and we, proximity wise, we right here. So we came together like that, and then it just evolved. And, Mike nudged it along, like, let's get together. It made sense. Like, we do need to come together. We stronger together. And we want to be the people that we needed when we was in there, which is more support. Even though we may have had our family members, it takes a community, like Mike said, to break those doors open. Lawyers, it takes sometimes celebrity to come along and get in the picture, family members. If you're a family member and you got somebody that's wrongfully convicted, like I was just reading the email on our website, that same scenario, you have to become involved in the community of wrongful convictions. And it is a community, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, you can find groups and people that's of like minds, and find out what's going on, where the fight is, where people are going to be, what they're fighting for, and get involved and get to know people, because in that community, there is your help. Lawyers, trusted lawyers, and that's another way that we help. We're trying to find a community of trusted investigators,
Yeah.
not just any investigator, but investigator that's going to do what they say they're going to do and provide the family with the documents back and the findings, instead of playing these types of games that they do play. and lawyers, paralegals, other advocates, judges. It's all kind. You're going to functions where all this stuff takes place, and you're meeting people away from their
Outside
areas,
they're outside the box.
outside the box,
Yes.
and you're making it personal. And I'm his father of such and such, and he can see me now. Mm-hmm. See, a lot of times they can't see the hurt and the pain or the impact on the family. They don't. It's just we tucked away. We gone under the cloak of darkness. That's how this is done.
So a closed mouth does not get fed.
Yeah.
And it is really important. Now, what does the role? I know if you can't afford a lawyer, they give you a public defender. How much is what's the value in that public defender when you are being wrongly convicted?
Let me go with it. Sometimes it's like a lot of lawyers feel like they underpaid, and when it comes to a public defender, sometimes you might find a public defender sometimes can be like a student. They really just starting to come around. Mm-hmm. They really don't. They asking questions, so they might do the bare minimum job for you. And this was just assigned to them, and this really wasn't like a job, something they got paid for. This was something they just got volunteered and came on their desk. So with public defenders, you get a lot of times, and guys that I know, you get the basic minimum, the bare minimum from a public defender. You might get a few documents, but trying to go up against a powerhouse like the Cuyahoga Justice Center with a public defender, that's why the conviction rate is so high, because it just don't balance right. Sometimes, and even with paid attorneys, you got paid attorneys that'll just talk good game and take your money, and you would think that you own to something just because of what they said to you. Right. And it wasn't even the paperwork that they presented to you. It was more about what he sold you out of his mouth. So, like a lot of public defenders, they don't even stay in contact with a lot of defendants when we are down the road. Like sometimes when you got a public defender, feel like you represent yourself.
Okay. Because
that's the point of the level of the Justice Center where they feel like this public defender is going to do the bare minimum work compared to when you got to pay an attorney. At least you get to see like, I did pay him for this, so he got to put something on paper. He got to, even if it get denied. Like, but a public defender sometimes is a good one, but the percentage rate of them coming out on top when you got one and you facing like a murder charge or something, it's like you gonna just cop out. They cop out conviction rate is way more than an overturn or not guilty. So in Cuyahoga County, it's not good.
So we're not lucky like Tyler Perry be put falling from grace, and just so happened she got a good public defender, a lawyer that believed that she was not guilty, even though she said she was. But this mental, going through the mental challenge, and telling yourself one thing when they believe in another thing. Now, let's talk about, you guys have a play that's coming up.
Yeah.
That's going to be at Warrensville High School.
Yes.
Next Thursday.
Next Monday.
Oh, next Monday.
Next Monday.
I don't know. I kept putting it with next. And it's called The Lynch Among Us. Let's talk about this play.
Yeah. But Lady D, about the attorneys and public defenders,
okay.
I would be remiss if we didn't say, not all of them are bad. We're not indicting the all. As a matter of fact, some of we know some strong attorneys at the public defender's office. Helped with some of our cases.
Right.
So even one of our cast members right now is working for the Ohio Public Defender's Office, and we know she is trauma-informed and thorough, and it's going to make a difference. So, but
not everybody.
It's not everybody.
Yes.
I want to make sure we...
And you know what? And it's important that we get into those positions.
Right.
Even if you don't do nothing but go and shadow, so this way you can get more educated.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way you're going to know the ins and outs of what to do the do's and don'ts when you come up against situations, because every situation is different.
Yeah.
Right.
And they are only allowed to do what they can do.
With so many, with a caseload.
Right. And the caseloads are just overbearing. So, but you want someone that's going to show an interest.
Yes.
And be concerned,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you reading and studying along while you're being incarcerated also helps you and them.
Yes, it does. It
Because
does.
it's good to have 4 pairs of eyes
Yeah.
looking at something.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you may see something that they may miss.
Yeah.
And that's good.
Yeah. Just like with your doctor or anything else, it's good to be
Anything.
educated, to double check things,
Yes.
And that's what we found, one of the reasons there's such a high rate of wrongful convictions in Cuyahoga County, because the illiteracy rate is very high. And if you look at the wrongful conviction cases, they usually use witnesses and, these characters that they can manipulate and then we had support. Mike had an education. He was going to college.
Right.
I was blessed to have a little education, so I know how to write letters and try to fight and campaign.
Mm-hmm.
But how many people can't even read or write? That's
Exactly.
been run through wrongfully convicted,
Right.
and that's stuck and don't know how even really what happened to them
Right.
fully.
Right.
And it's very bad and it's sad.
Yes.
But let's lynched among us.
Yes. Let's
Lynched
talk about
among us.
lynch among us.
Yeah. So we feel like we were hung, like it was a lynching, being wrongfully convicted, because along the process, you see the wrong being done, and many times intentionally, with hate and malice involved, calling you all manner of things, and they're not true.
Right.
And you're using evidence and different stuff. It's just, we found that it's a similarity between wrongful convictions and the lynchings that were done in this country in the early 40s, 50s, and before then, which was an accusation was hurled, many times a false accusation, just for looking at somebody or just something because they don't like you. They hurled the accusation. A mob would form around that, sometimes led by law enforcement themselves. And they would go and seek to circumvent justice and bring justice about themselves. And they do that the same way with the wrongful convictions. Usually it's some false accusation, something hurled, wrong person. They formulate, things don't fit. It goes through certain levels. Somebody has to check some stuff off before it gets to the prosecutor. All these people sign off on this.
Right.
And push the wrongful conviction through. Lady D, if there's nothing else I get across to your listeners today is that it's amazing how simple and easy these wrongful convictions get pushed through the system. You'd be surprised how easy it gets done. So if you're a loved one who's been telling you he was done wrong or she was done wrong, and they've been saying it for years and there, you don't believe them because they was in the streets or doing this and that, you might want to listen closely.
How can the youth get involved in the Voices of Justice?
Yeah, so
Tell us.
I thought you said pause.
No.
Okay. Oh, so the youth can get involved with the Voices of Justice by becoming more civically involved. We like to prepare them and let them know what their rights are, for one. We like to let them know that in Ohio, when you do register to vote, that you not only can vote to empower your community, but you can become a juror, which you can directly impact a wrongful conviction. You could have been on Mike's jury and stopped all of this from happening. You could have been the one that says, this don't sound right.
Right.
Because you know in the community, that wouldn't go like that, no. But if you don't have a jury of your peers, they don't know what goes on, what's being put before them, so you can directly impact wrongful convictions.
Well, I want you to tell our listeners again the name of the play, where it's going to be at, what time, and what's the cost.
Yes, so we're at Warrensville Heights High School. It's a $69 million renovated facility, state of the art. We're excited to be there. It's called The Lynched Among Us, Tales